I will be ranking all of the best protein sources from best to worst. I will rank them on 3 principles. What's the calorie to protein ratio? Is there actually enough protein in them? The taste, how tasty is the food? Would you actually eat it? And lastly, how many meals can you work this into? You don't want this to be just like one meal that you get bored of quickly. You want this product to be able to work into a range of meals. And here we have our list with our 10 foods that we will be going through. Now, before we get into the video, I actually have my own cookbook with high protein recipes. So if you're looking to increase your protein intake and eat more protein-full meals, then this is for you. If you want to pick up your own free copy right now, you can either go to oathfitness.com or link in the description and get your copy. Let's get into the ranking. Okay, first up, we have egg whites. Egg whites, I think, goes into A tier. Now, let me explain why. Egg whites, an amazing source of protein. So if you look at the calories, it's 50 calories, 11 grams of protein for 100 grams. So it's probably the most filling source of protein. That's why it goes into A tier. The taste is not that great, but you can work it with something like 0-calorie syrup or 0-calorie ketchup, and that will make it taste better. However, the taste is not that great, but the protein to calorie ratio, absolutely insane. That's why it goes into A tier. Whey protein powder, straight to S tier. Now, while the protein to calorie ratio is probably not that great, it's about, for 30 grams of whey protein powder, it's 100 calories and 25 grams of protein. So basically it's pure amount of protein, but it's not that volume. What you do with this protein powder though is you work it into meals. You work it into something like porridge. You work it into something like Greek yogurt or cottage cheese, and it adds so much flavor and taste. And then yeah, talking about flavor, there's so many different options of whey protein powder that you can choose from that, you know, that it's incredible. So the taste, the fact that you can work it into so many meals, and the fact that it's pure protein, those 3 things absolutely outweigh the fact that it is a bit less voluminous source of protein, but it's still a solid S tier. Lentils, not that great of a protein source, but a great replacement for something like rice, potatoes, and pasta. If you're not hitting your protein goals and you're eating things like potatoes, rice, pasta, and you know, something else similar to that, replace those with lentils and your protein is going to go up. So lentils goes into, I would say, a C tier because it's, you know, you're not going to eat something like rice for the protein. You eat rice for the added flavor. Lentils is kind of the same. It adds the flavor and it just bumps up your protein amount by a little more each day. Pumpkin seeds. Pumpkin seeds are the best source of protein from all of seeds and nuts in general. It goes into C tier because it's still quite high calories and low volume, but it gives you also healthy fats. So while yes, it is a lot of calories, so as you can see, pumpkin seeds is about 560 calories for 100 grams. And it gives you 49 grams of fat and 30 grams of protein. So that's a lot of calories. Like you're not gonna eat 100 grams of pumpkin seeds, but it also gives you those healthy fats that you're going to need to eat anyways. So it's a decent source of protein, but it's an amazing source of healthy fats. If you're missing out on your healthy fats and maybe you want to also add in a bit of protein in your diet, eat pumpkin seeds. Tilapia. Tilapia is an easy A tier, just behind egg whites. Tilapia is basically like high protein fish, coming in at 120 calories for 100 grams of cooked tilapia, and it gives you 26 grams of protein. So that is almost more protein than something like chicken. Thing is though, chicken probably tastes better. In my opinion, I would say chicken tastes better. But tilapia does, like for example, if you ever eaten fish just kind of dissolves in your mouth, which is, I don't really like that, but some people do. But it is a great source of protein, so that's why you should be eating this. And it's the calorie to protein ratio is insane. The taste is not that great. And how many meals can you work this into? Fundamentally anything. Something like soup, something like regular meals, something like whatever, anything savory, you can work tilapia into. Anything you can work chicken into, you can work tilapia into. So that, it's an A tier. Definitely a great choice. Cottage cheese. Cottage cheese is very similar to Greek yogurt. I would have to say B tier. The texture is kind of off-putting, I would say, for cottage cheese. You would have to add in the taste, also not that great. So for cottage cheese, you can obviously choose from different percentages of fat, and that will determine what's the protein to calorie ratio. For example, here I have 100 grams of cottage cheese, gives you 100 calories, 11 grams of protein, and 4 grams of fat. So this still has that fat. You can work these calories down to something like 60 calories of just pure protein if you just pick 0% fat cottage cheese. So the protein to calorie ratio is insane for cottage cheese, but then the taste is awful. I can barely even intake cottage cheese. And how many meals can you work this into? Not that many. You can basically make salad, and you can make something like a sweet meal with something like jam or protein powder. But then you need whey protein powder, and that's in its own, category. But not that many meals that you can make with cottage cheese, and it doesn't taste that great. Screw this. It's a great source of protein. I say the taste brings it down to C tier. It's horrid. C tier. Next up, we have edamame. Edamame, if that's how you say it, is basically like peas. And it actually tastes good. So here we have, for 100 grams of cooked edamame, it gives you about 120 calories, 11 grams of protein, and 5 grams of fat. So the protein to calorie ratio, not that great. But then the taste, I would say, is definitely better than cottage cheese. That's probably from the added fats and added carbs. And how many meals can you work this into? So many more. You can work this into any salad. You can add this to anything that needs vegetables. You can add this to basically every single meal, and it kicks up your protein immediately. It's just that kind of vegetable source that gives you a huge amount of protein as well. So this one, B tier. Next up, we have lean ground beef. Ground beef, very similar to cottage cheese, You can pick from different sources of ground beef based on the percentage of fat. Ground beef, I say it goes in upper B tier. Ground beef is great because it tastes great, but the volume of it's much less volume as food than something like tilapia. Tilapia is definitely much more filling than something like lean ground beef. What I suggest, so here I have an example. 100 grams of cooked lean ground beef gives you 200 calories, 10 grams of fat, and 26 grams of protein. This is basically what you call 90-10% ground beef, lean ground beef. You can start looking at something like 98% lean ground beef, and that basically means that there's going to be no fat. Basically no fat in the ground beef, and this basically means that you get a better protein to calorie ratio. So ground beef, then talking about the taste for ground beef is amazing. I would pick ground beef over any other meat every single day. However, it is more calories. For 100 grams of cooked lean ground beef, it will be more calories than something like 100 grams of cooked chicken. And then how many meals can you work this into? Any meal that you can work tilapia into, any meal that you can work chicken into, you can work ground beef into as well. Next up, we have turkey. Turkey goes above tilapia, I would say, because for me, it tastes better than tilapia. However, the protein to calorie ratio may not be as good. So here we have 100 grams of cooked, skinless turkey breast is going to be 30 grams of protein, 1 gram of fat, and 147 calories. So that's a shit ton of protein. I mean, that's literally the most protein for 100 grams out of this whole list. So a shit ton of protein. The protein to calorie ratio is insane. Then talking about taste, as I said, this is kind of my preference. I like eating turkey breast much more than something like tilapia and ground beef. You might be a fish person, but for me, I would say I would rather eat turkey breast. And then how many meals can you work this into? Again, any meal you can work chicken, ground beef, or tilapia into, you can work turkey breast into. And turkey breast is better than chicken. It's better than chicken. And lastly, we have Greek yogurt. We have Greek yogurt, and Greek yogurt, an easy S tier as well, I would say. Easy S tier. For 100 grams of Greek yogurt, you get about 50 calories as well, same as egg whites. It's pure amount of protein. It's pure protein. So for 100 grams of 0% Greek yogurt, 0% fat Greek yogurt, you get 50 calories and something like 11 grams of protein, 10 to 11 grams of protein. So it's a phenomenal source of protein. Now, the taste, very similar to cottage cheese, is not that great. However, I would say the texture is much better than cottage cheese. So go out and buy 0% cottage cheese, and then you can add in again something like sweeteners or whey protein powder, or 0% 0-calorie syrup or sauces into this to make it even sweeter. But by itself, it also does taste better than cottage cheese, so that's why it's a deserved S tier. That is the 10 best protein sources ranked from best to worst on this list. Don't forget, if you want a high protein cookbook, then you can either go to ofitness.com or link in the description and get a high protein cookbook for absolutely free. Besides that, comment down below what you thought of my list. What would you have done different? What other sources do you think should be on this list? And I will see you in the next one.